Are you a transplant patient who's actually having difficulty sleeping at night? Whether it be getting to sleep for the first time, staying asleep, or really just getting a good night's rest? Yeah, I know that was a stupid question, right? Anyway, today on the Transplant Helper, we're going to be talking for just a moment about potential for taking sleep aids as a transplant patient, as well as some things you can do if you're on one of those sleep aids, say like Ambien, to make it more effective. So go ahead and stay tuned. Hey folks, welcome to Transplant Helper again today. My name is Jim Merle. I look forward to the day when I can just get one good night's rest, or maybe even better than that, maybe 2 nights in a row where I really wake up feeling refreshed, feeling like I've really gotten my due reward for my labors for the day. But typically speaking, that's not going to happen very often for us as transplant patient. Now, some of that has to do with the hereditary line that I'm in. My mother doesn't sleep, my sister doesn't sleep, I don't think my grandmother ever slept, that sort of thing. However, some of that actually has to do with us being transplant recipients ourselves, especially if we're still on any dose whatsoever of the devil's drug I refer to often, prednisone. Now, if you've not already seen my series on prednisone, I'm going to go ahead and link it up here in the corners as well as in the description below. Probably a little bit there you need to learn about that drug. But aside from that, one of the major side effects is certainly, hands down, a restlessness and the inability to sleep. So hopefully what I tell you today can help you out. I get a lot of questions from time to time from individuals, transplant recipients, who are saying, Jim, is it actually possible for me to take any kind of a sleep aid or a sedative after transplant? The answer to that is generally yes. However, like any medication, any supplement, anything at all, you need to be checking with your team first and foremost. But with that said, it is possible and even pretty likely that your transplant team would be more than willing to either prescribe you or have a physician that they're kind of overseeing there, like your general practitioner, to prescribe you a sleep aid, a sedative, if you will. Things like Ambien, things like Trazodone, those type drugs are generally safe to an extent for us as transplant patients. At least they're no more dangerous than they would be for the general public. Now, those drugs come with side effects, they come with problems. You got to really be cautious about that. It's not really something you want to get too deeply involved in, but you have to do what you have to do. Because if you're not sleeping, you're not going to be healthy and you're not going to have a good life. So I'll probably get back to that a little bit later in another program. But anyway, that being said, what are some of the things you can do to be sure that if you're on one of those drugs, like for example, I'm on Ambien, to make sure that you're making that drug as effective as it can be? Well, it's really twofold. One has to do with something I know is the case, and that is, I know it is the case that you need to be reading the back of your medicine bottles, okay? Because most likely, many of the pills that you have in your medicine bag, Zolpidem / Ambien, same drug, just generic and name brand forms, but those drugs often say on the label, be sure to take with a full glass of water. And that is absolutely true, okay? If you're like I am as well, as a transplant patient, you've got a special talent, maybe that people don't necessarily know about, and that is you might be able to take a handful. In my case, I know I've taken at least 27 pills at once. Take a handful of pills, chunk them in your mouth with just a little or no water, gobble that down, and you're done. I mean, you become the world champion, a Guinness Book World Record setter when it comes to swallowing pills. But that tiny little pill that's in your medicine arsenal now, something like Ambien, you got to be really careful with that one, because if you swallow that kind of dry mouth or with very little water, it's not going to have near the effectiveness that it would had you drank a glass of water or a cup of water with that. So I've come to know that generally speaking, when I sit down to take my 9 p.m. meds, I take 9-3-9. That's just my schedule, trying to balance that 12 hours apart for some of those medications. But when I sit down to take my 9 p.m. meds, oftentimes what I'll do is I'll take my whole handful of medications, pop those with whatever water I want, and then I'll turn around and chase that with just that Ambien, just by itself, little bitty pill, pop it in my mouth, and I'll be sure to drink an entire cup of water. And that doesn't have to be a 20 ounce, it doesn't have to be a big tall glass or anything, but a cup, like a measuring cup of water. I'll down it with that, and that makes sure that there's enough liquid, that sort of thing, inside of my belly, my stomach, to actually begin to break that down. I even think, and I couldn't prove this, I even think that it kind of starts melting and breaking down a little bit better as it goes through your intestines to the stomach while, you know, being submerged or surrounded by the water. I don't know if that's true or not. Anyway, it goes down better and it dissolves more quickly with the water in there. But here's something that I've been kind of discovering over the last few weeks. You know, I've kind of gotten the sure impression that there are days when my Ambien is very, very effective. There are days when it seemingly is worthless. It doesn't do any good. I got to wondering, why is that? Why is it that one day I sleep, the next day I don't? And I've done the same things, the same regimen. Well, it could be the level of activity or exercise, or maybe even having extra stress in my life. That can cause a sleepless night, no doubt. But it could also be something else. I kind of turned myself into my own personal clinical trial, a guinea pig for myself and you all, and here's what I have discovered. I have discovered that Ambien particularly, again, could apply to many of our medications, I assume, but Ambien particularly, if it is taken on a full stomach, or if you've recently snacked, say before bedtime, like I like to do, if it's taken on a full stomach, it does not have the same effect as it does on an empty stomach. And Ambien is just one of those drugs that becomes evident quickly. You know, some medications we take don't necessarily have any real feeling to them or side effect to them, so you may not necessarily notice it. But Ambien, because it has that sedative action in it, if I take my Ambien on a full stomach, I might go straight to bed, lay there for hours, and really never go to sleep. However, I have noticed that if I take it on an empty stomach, which is hard to do because I don't like going to bed hungry, but when I take it on an empty stomach, it's lights out. Matter of fact, I have even noticed that I'll maybe go to get my medicine bag, sit down, take my medication, say in the living room. By the time I get up from that, you know, position, go maybe take a shower, brush my teeth, I'm already getting lightheaded and kind of woozy because that medication is kicking in. You see, on that empty belly, for whatever reason, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not any kind of a nutritionist, I'm not a pharmacist, so I don't know why, but seemingly on an empty belly, that medication is being broken down and delivered into my bloodstream much more quickly. And that can be a good thing, because I've tried everything else. I've tried, you know, somebody says, well, you need to be taking it an hour or maybe 2 hours before bedtime. I've done that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Somebody else says, well, you need to be taking it immediately at bedtime. You know, don't even take it until you're ready to lay down. I've certainly done that plenty of times. No real change. But I have directly noted a change in me when I take it on a full versus an empty stomach. And I do much better with the empty. So here's what I want to ask you. Are you on some kind of a sleep med, a sedative type thing, Ambien, whatever it is, to help you sleep? No shame in that game. That's just the way my life is now. On top of that, how effective is it? Is it working for you or not? And have you tried some of these things before, including, would you be willing to try taking it purposefully on the empty stomach just to see if it works better? And if it does, please keep commenting below. You may comment now and say, I'm taking one. You may comment there and say it doesn't really work. I hope that you'll comment back in a week or so and come back to this video and say, you know what? I tried it, working like a charm. Because for me personally, if I want to sleep, empty stomach, Ambien, night-night, lights out, I'm gone. We'll see you in the morning. That's the way it works. I appreciate you joining me today on this video. If this has helped you out in any way, how about go ahead and give me a big thumbs up? That just encourages me to continue to make content like this, which, as you already know, I love to make, to hopefully help to advocate, educate, and motivate you as a transplant patient. Most of the time, my videos come out on Tuesdays and Thursdays around 4 p.m. Some of them will be a little bit more often than that, just depending on what the subject matter is and how many questions I've gotten for the week. And that adds something there too. Let me remind you, I'm 100% open to questions. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to message me on Facebook, send me an email, something like that. My stuff's in the links below this video. You get all my information and connect with me. Ask questions. I'm happy to answer them. Sometimes I'll just answer you back. Most time, well, all the time I'll answer you back. But sometimes I'll not only answer you back, it may become a video. So that's what this has been today. Again, I appreciate you joining me today. Until next time, please stay stronger, friends.